and welcome to World Talks. I'm Diana Skaya. The United Kingdom marks Remembrance Day today. Established following the end of World War I, holidays observed annually to honor members of the armed forces who have died in line of duty. But it's also a moment to reflect on the extraordinary role played by Allied forces who fought shoulder to shoulder with the British. Among them, the Polish pilots of the legendary 303rd Squadron, the highest scoring unit of the Battle of Britain. And joining me now here in studio is historian and host of the Moment in Time WW2 Edition podcast, Alina Nowobilska, to tell us more about their courage, legacy, and why their story still matters today. Alina, welcome to the program. So glad to have you here on such an important day today. So first off, I just want to ask you today, for our viewers, Remembrance Day, tell us the significance of it, and do take us through today's ceremonies taking place in the UK. What can we expect?
In about 45 minutes, actually, because obviously we're an hour ahead. It's going to be taking place at 11, where we get 2 minutes of silence as well. We have the same thing on the 11th, exactly, for that moment, for the remembrance of those people. So this originally begins in the First World War. So during the First World War, on the 11th of the 11th at 11 o'clock, it's that 2 minutes of silence for Remembrance Sunday. But it kind of is a chance there for the whole Commonwealth, because it's not just England that's celebrating today. It's also New Zealand, it's also Australia, it's also Canada, because it's all part of the Commonwealth. It's just a whole kind of, I don't know how to explain it, it's just this huge amount of countries all put together just to remember, because it's not just the British that fought, we've got to remember this. I know we're going to talk about the Poles as well, but the Canadians fought, the New Zealanders, the Australians, the Indians, so many people took part in this. So it's all about this one day where everybody gets a chance to remember the people that we've lost all the way back to the First World War.
And tell me, Alina, specifically about for the Britons, what does the day represent to them and today?
It's important. So I was really hoping today we'd be able to get some poppies, but we're going to imagine that I'm wearing a poppy today, because that is another one of, it's important for us too. Poppies are very important for Poles too, but for Brits, that's how it began after the First World War. It was this symbol of remembrance. It's a remembrance flower. So people wear poppies, and they wear them throughout the whole of England. They're sold at bus stops, they're sold on the street, they're sold predominantly at train stations and things like that. And you can see days, even weeks leading up to this day, seas of people are wearing them to remember the people that we've lost.
If I'm not mistaken, right now what we're seeing is a live footage coming to us through London, right there, making way for these celebrations of Remembrance Day. Alina, when we talk about the remembrance, you mentioned it, right? It's also very important to include the foreign pilots who played quite a particular role, but particularly Polish pilots of the 303rd Squadron. What can you tell us about that?
Well, these guys, I want to say that they're forgotten. In Poland, they're not forgotten. But slowly but surely, people are starting to write books and talk more and more about the foreign pilots that took part, especially social media. That plays a massive role in being able to push our narrative and our history out into the wider world. And it is you are starting to see this sort of change, that people remember more, that there were more than just British pilots. These pilots went through incredible difficulties to try and even get to England, let alone fly planes, in the Battle of Britain, because that's what they partook in. They partook in the Battle of Britain. It was a very hard and a very difficult fight for them. Many pilots were lost. Many pilots were even lost during testing, or flying is dangerous at the end of the day, you know.
Absolutely.
So these pilots worked, and they were probably, I don't want to get yelled at by English people for saying this, but in my opinion, they were one of the bravest lot, and they would sometimes even dismiss orders and continue fighting, even when they were told to back off and say, you know, we've got to move on, we've got to move away from this situation where we're at. We're outnumbered, for example. Poles continued going. There's a fabulous TV film about it, you know, please repeat. The Poles are saying please repeat, because they're pretending they don't understand English. So
language barriers.
Yeah, please repeat your orders. And they're like, just nope, we're going to continue and carry on going. So I would say, in my opinion, one of the baddest group of people that you would probably ever come across, and bravest.
Alina, what else made them stand out during the Battle of Britain?
Gosh, the amount of Germans that they managed to shoot out of the sky, and their relentlessness, because they just wouldn't stop. It was this kind of idea that they would start going after one certain plane or two planes, and they just wouldn't stop till they were down to the ground.
How do we explain their success, though? I mean, you're saying that they wouldn't stop, but...
That's because of what's going on back home. They know exactly what's happening at home. They are determined to fight back for their country. They were pushed out of Poland in 1939. They had to escape, because either that or they'll end up in a prisoner of war camp, or, for example, in Katyn if they were captured by the Soviets. So they know what's happening at home. They know the repressions that are happening here. They know the difficulties people are going by. There's a lack of food. There's a lack of resources. There's terror going out on the streets. People are being deported to concentration camps. Battle of Britain is happening just after Auschwitz is opened up. So information about Auschwitz is already coming out into the masses. The Polish government exile already knows it exists. So these people are aware of exactly what's happening back at home. So for them, it's that drive of saying, do you know what? We are going to fight for our people. We're going to fight for our country, even though we are so far away.
And how do you think Poles received that news in Poland, that you had these Polish pilots that were fighting not for their country, right? And for Britain? How did that look like?
I think it was incredible, especially during the Warsaw Uprising. I think that is where we see that peak of pride for our Polish pilots. Because, again, this is something it's going to repeat itself. The Poles basically say, we're not going to follow orders. So on the 4th of August, when just after the uprising breaks out, the Poles are told you're not allowed to fly over Warsaw. And, of course, what do the Poles do? They fly right over Warsaw and drop the loads, because they're ignoring commands, because they're trying to help their fellow Poles. And when the Poles on the ground see, Allied planes and Polish pilots, and they just, it's this euphoric moment to say, look, we've not been forgotten. They're out here. They're here to help us.
Haven't been forgotten, but reportedly, Alina, some weren't even invited to a victory parade. Do tell us the reasons for that. I mean, they brought in such an important contribution, and suddenly without an invitation, what happened there?
Oh, this is a bit of a complex situation. So my friend Jenny Grant right now has done the research for this. So just if anybody wants any information, please head towards her. She's fantastic. But it is a bit of a myth to what is happening here. It's this myth repeated that Poles were not invited. It's a little bit more complex than just saying Poles were not invited. The reason being is that the Warsaw government was invited for the victory parade. And of course, the Warsaw government, lastminute.com, of course, as it always would have done, says, no, we're not going to come. So as a last afterthought... Because,
it was a Soviet-controlled Polish government.
This is it. We've got to remember, in 1946, because this is not 1945, this is 46. Okay. We're talking about a year later. So Poland has completely been taken over by the Soviets, by the communists. So being back home in Warsaw is not a good place to be. So a lot of Polish pilots, a lot of Polish personnel have ended up in England. So it's a lastminute.com sort of invite to say, yeah, all right, it's an afterthought. We'll just invite the ones that are remaining in the UK. And the Polish government exile is like, do you know what? We should have been invited in the first place. This is not on. So in the end, I mean, this is a matter of days before, and there's no time to organise. So the official statement is, unfortunately, we cannot mobilise all our forces. But unfortunately, the real reason we know is they were snubbed. The Poles were completely and utterly snubbed, just for the communist government. They want to appease Stalin, that's the other thing.
Alina, you have a personal family story to share, I believe, with this. I mean, your grandparents, if I'm not mistaken, took part in one of the marches, right?
Yeah, so in the 90s, they took part in one of the Remembrance Sundays, because Poles do, a lot of Polish veterans, obviously we don't have...
We're seeing a picture right there, right?
Yes, so the gentleman... Yeah, the gentleman in the middle and the lady on the right-hand side are my grandparents. So my grandfather fought in the Warsaw Uprising, my grandmother partially fought in the Warsaw Uprising, it's a whole different story. But they got a chance in the 90s, I can't date you this photo, I'm really sorry. sorry. But it is from the 90s, and you can see the UK buildings behind, and they're surrounded by friends and people that they know, part of the Polish Veterans Association. So they did march. You can see the armband on my grandfather's arm. You can see the poppy very clearly as well. So they also adopt this idea of remembrance. So it's not just a British thing or a Commonwealth thing. You see people and countries that did fight alongside the British, the Americans, the other allies. They're also marching in these Remembrance Sundays. So it is, all in all, a kind of joint and hand-in-hand thing. That's the word I was looking for.
That's quite an incredible piece of memory also to have. Alina, how do you think that history resonates today in terms of as both Poland and the United Kingdom continue to honor their shared wartime past?
That's a difficult question. It's a very difficult question. We've got a lot of work to do because I want to say, I've mentioned this on TVP World if people have watched me before, that we are very centred on our own history. So we're very Polish-centred. The Brits are very British-centred. And especially with the Second World War, that's what we're talking about, Second World War, it's important to be able to see that there is just not one narrative. There's many more than that, and the Poles the Poles are forgotten. That's the better way of saying Poles are forgotten in the history books, especially in the Western world. And if you look at history books to say, oh, let's look at the history of World War II, there's maybe 3 or 4 lines about Poland. Poland got invaded. That's it. So there needs to be more work done between the Brits and the Poles to kind of somehow, I don't know.
What is more, well, that's exactly what I want to ask you. What kind of more effort needs to be done in order for the next generation to still remember this day and remember this particular time in history?
To be honest, if I had my way and I had all the money in the world, I would be doing exchange programs between the two countries. I would be allowing children to come and talk to each other, because that's the youth needs to talk about their trauma and the trauma of their parent, because it's generational trauma at the end of the day. And we're all stuck, especially in Poland, we have a lot of trauma, even in my generation. So I think it will be great for people to be able to have an open conversation. So if anybody wants to send me a load of money to be able to run this kind of project, I'm very open.
And finally, Alina, when you look at 303 Squadron's legacy, what lesson do you think that it actually still offers in a world facing continuous conflicts today?
Bravery. Stand your ground. I think that is it. I mean, you can see in Ukraine all the brave soldiers coming out of there as well. And it's something that the 303 Squadron were just steadfast, and I want to use the word hardcore. So I think that is the best way forward for us to stay brave and optimistic. That's another one, optimism, because they were optimistic they would win.
Thank you so much, Alina Nowobilska, historian and host of the Moment in Time World War II Edition podcast, for telling us everything here today.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. And thank you for watching World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Skaya. See you next time.